Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Campus Waterfowl podcast. I'm your host, Derek Christians. And on this episode of the podcast, I am sitting here with a good friend of mine, Sean Weaver. If you're not familiar who Sean Weaver is, he is the producer and host of MeatEater's new waterfowl hunting series called Duck Lore. And Sean and I guess my story with Sean and how it all started, coming from Minnesota to South Dakota State, where I went to college, kind of the first few weeks and kind of going into the duck hunting season, Sean, it was just a name that I kind of came across. And then so followed him on Instagram, started following his story. And then kind of never really met him in Brookings, really. And then a few years back, I think it was like 2018, we met up in Minnesota at Game Fair, where he was helping out Sam Sohold at his booth. And him and I started having conversations, and we both kind of stayed with what we were doing, and kind of now we're here and have some awesome stories to share with you today. And I think it'll be fun talking about where it all started in Eastern South Dakota, and then kind of where we're at today. So,
man,
Sean,
that's
how are
already
you
been
doing today?
4 years, dude. It's been 4 years.
Yeah, no kidding. It seems like it was literally last summer. Like looking back at that when we were at Game Fair.
Oh, and I feel like those events like Game Fair, we just kind of put on pause for a couple years. So it's like the last time I was at Game Fair, I saw you, but that was now 4 years ago.
Yeah, just crazy. We got a lot to catch up on this episode. So I think it's gonna be a good one. And some things I want to talk about is your story for sure, because since then, you're now with MeatEater doing the Duck Lore and that series, and so we're definitely gonna be touching on that. And that's already starting to air here on YouTube. So I want to see if we can kind of get a glimpse of what's coming up ahead in this season, and then from there, kind of I want to touch on the First Lite gear as well, just because you guys have been wearing that all from the first season and this season, and so I want to see what your thoughts are on that gear and how's it standing up through all these conditions you guys are hunting in. But kind of to get started here, would you mind sharing with everyone where you grew up, what makes Sean Weaver Sean?
Well, I'm an Iowa boy growing up anyways, which is almost a derogatory term in the waterfowl world because Iowans go everywhere else to hunt, right? They don't hunt where they live. But yeah, I grew up in Iowa, moved to South Dakota State for college, same story as you. And I was infatuated with waterfowling before I ever got there, and moving there just made it that much worse. Got a job as a hunting guide at a lodge there in South Dakota. My first spring there, actually. I had not even lived there a whole year yet. And from there, it's just been crazy. So what kind of ended up happening was I loved taking photos of hunts and whatever else, but when I was working for that outfitter, I started making videos of our hunts while I was guiding, and that was kind of interesting.
Can you talk? Oh, what year was this?
That would have been 2013.
So pretty
not that
early
long
on
ago.
to the social media stuff and kind of before all of that. Gotcha.
Yeah, and that was kind of when Facebook was still viral content. Like you could still really get that viral hunting video on Facebook at that time, and YouTube was still kind of not really slamming down hunting videos as bad as maybe it does nowadays. And so you could really get some impressive reach back then. And so we just started making videos of our hunts, just highlight reel type stuff, 2-3 minute videos of our favorite stuff from the year. And it hit, dude. People loved it. And that was kind of a moment where I realized that there was as much of an opportunity for me to do video work as actually being a guide, because being a guide is a hard way to make a living, dude. I respect the heck out of the people that do it, because it is not.
I just hear stories.
Oh, it's not for the faint of heart, man.
No. So then from there, like, you were still in college at South Dakota State, you said. Picked up the camera, fell in love. Was it video right away that you fell in love with, or was it the photos that first kind of got you into the video stuff?
I was already kind of in love with the photo side. Not that I was good at it, but I loved doing it. And the video side was where I realized that it could be more than just a hobby, that it could be something that I would do professionally. And so video kind of really, for me, went from like, this is something I'm passionate about and a nice hobby, to I want to do this for a living, junior to senior year of college, about that 21, 22 time period. And started my own business doing that, my own production company, and I was full-time in that by the time I graduated college. I did not go to class that much. I was either hunting or working.
I want to ask you, where were you at, just like mentally, in that trying to decide, you're going to make a business out of this? Like, how big of a decision was that on you?
Well, so I was actually a pharmacy major to start off with. And a big catalyst for me wanting to start a business was I did not want to be a pharmacist. I was going to school for it, but didn't want to do it, and was just looking for anything else that made sense to me to do professionally. And it was nerve-wracking as hell to think about starting my own business, and also like a little bit of ignorance is bliss moment where like you don't quite realize what you're taking on. You're like, I'm going to start a business and people are going to pay me to do this work, but you don't until you do it. You don't realize quite how much you're biting off. And like very early on, actually, I'll say like that first year was more exciting than it was nerve-wracking, because you still kind of just have that, like the chase in the work side. And then a year to 2 years in, when now deliverables are due and you're doing all the edits and, you're settling up and sending out invoices, that's where it got real. That was actually probably the more stressful side, was the real operating of a business.
And was it waterfowl hunting that you wanted to do full-time kind of from the start, or did you like have to branch out to other industries to kind of make ends meet for your business? Yeah,
I branched out into all sorts of stuff, man. We did like electric bike videos. We did restaurants in Omaha. We did, anything that would pay the bills. My first cold calls, I was just cold calling, cold emailing, probably breaking some solicitation rules, and just hitting up businesses, see if they would give me time of day. And I got like 52 no's before I ever got someone to give me work. Yeah. And that was not fun by any means, but we did everything. But I did want to always kind of stick in the waterfowl business, and was hoping to take that outfitter model, right, of like making these videos for outfitters. I was hoping to take that into other outfits and continue doing that, and that is what worked. I mean, that is what I did with Angel Wing Outfitters out in western Nebraska. I did a lot of video work for them. Okay. Big Kansas Outdoors in Kansas, a few other ones, and a bunch of pheasant outfits in South Dakota. So,
but then from there, kind of where did you go with your business? You started, was it the Grind Waterfowl, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
You got involved doing videography for that crew.
Yeah. So I actually met those boys while I was at Angel Wing out there in western Nebraska, and just kind of, ran into them really more than anything. And one thing led to another. We became friends, and the next year they said, we want to hire you to do our production. And that was so then that's when I hired Max Barta to work with me, I should say. And we ended up producing The Grind for 4.5 years, and that was that's some of my greatest memories. That was a lot of fun producing that. We had a lot of, good God, did we travel, but it was, living the dream, so to speak, of actually making a living producing waterfowl TV, which I didn't think I would get there as quickly or as easily as I did. I won't say easily, but I didn't think it would come that naturally, I guess, but it did.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say is the biggest piece of advice or the biggest thing kind of looking back now that has helped you get to that point where you were able to kind of solely focus on a lot of the waterfowl stuff?
If you want to make a living, like really make a living working in what a lot of people would consider like a dream job, a passionate line of work, you have to be willing to just work harder than anyone else. I sacrificed a lot of things. Friendships, relationships, my own hunting, financial gain, right? Even just living cheaply for a long time. You have to be willing to do all that and put in those true 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. There was a year and a half where I only took 2 weekends for myself, and the rest was just work.
Jeez.
And I won't always say I'm like the most talented or the smartest, but I do love to work. I like to work.
And then, so from there, that brings us through. So you did the Grind Waterfowl for a few years. That brings us to what year?
That brings us to
how many?
That brings us to spring of 21. Only a year ago. Spring
of 21. What?
Yeah.
So what happened in the spring of 21?
I joined MeatEater full time. I filmed an episode of MeatEater with Steve in South Dakota. He had came hunting. We actually met on a wild food event in Oregon, and I was the photographer on it. Yeah, it was very.
Oh, that's what you were doing out there.
Yeah. I was photographing a wild food, like 8-course meal thing for Cabela's, and Steve was out there, and he was the chef doing the whole thing, or one of them, and that was in 2018, I think. That was how him and I met and became buds. Then he came out, filmed a Netflix episode, and last year said, "Hey, we want to do some waterfowl content. You want to do it?" Which was surreal for sure.
Yeah. Well, what was going through your head when that happened? How'd that make you feel?
I kind of have like I won't say I'm a pessimist, but I'm not an optimist. And, until something is like on paper, really a done deal, I just don't quite always believe everything. And maybe that comes from so many times contracts, potential work, all that falling through that, you don't always buy it. And that was kind of what I kept thinking was going to happen. Like, eventually this is just going to all kind of fall through. But no, man, it was very real. And that was kind of really how that started. Was he was like, what waterfowl content should we produce? What do you want to produce? Put together a pitch, put together some content, and that was how we created the idea of duck lore.
Awesome. Now, when I saw that news and heard the news, I knew exactly why you were hired to come on to MeatEater, and I was so excited for you because the MeatEater couldn't have gotten a better guy to run all their waterfowl stuff, because I feel like is your title. What's your title at Meat Eater? Is it Duck Nerd?
Yeah, that's kind of like my self-proclaimed title a little bit.
But I've honestly, since day one, since I've heard of your name, like waterfowl and duck hunting and goose hunting has been associated with that, and since then, like everything I've seen from you has been waterfowl, and so if that or your walleye fishing, so in the spring, so between waterfowl and walleyes.
I think my actual title is producer and content contributor, but Duck Nerd's just a little less off-putting, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just feels more like it
perfect.
describes me. Yeah.
But no,
I think that, man, I've said this before, and I probably sound like a broken record, but I've only made a couple decisions in life that weren't based around ducks. I mean, most of the decisions I've made have been about waterfowl, and the couple decisions I made that weren't based around ducks didn't pan out. So I guess I'll just keep letting my life be dictated by what the ducks are doing.
Yeah. Just live by the ducks, live by their means.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, no, it's crazy story, and no, I can't wait to see what you do next, and what's even to come after Duck Lore, for how many years this will go on for. But let's talk about Duck Lore a little bit. This got published in, was it February this last year, or this year season? But so are those recorded? Kind of the first question I have about Duck Lore. Well, let's rewind here a little bit. Where did the idea of Duck Lore even come from, and like why should someone even tune into Duck Lore?
My impetus with Duck Lore was to like truly try to capture what the everyday waterfowler goes through. Now granted, that can't be, like, it can't ever be a one-to-one relationship. I'm ultimately getting to travel around hunting, which all fall, which most waterfowlers don't get to do. So it's not a one-to-one. But the average waterfowler, he's a freelance guy, man. He might get to go on a guided trip a year or once every 5 years or 10 years, but ultimately he has to get out there and figure it out on his own. He doesn't have lease money to pay. He's hunting public land or knocking on doors for private, and that's a hard way to produce a TV show, which is why I think a lot of TV shows have not done that. Most of the waterfowl TV shows out there, and it's not a slight, but they've always kind of focused on guided hunts, banger hunts, piling up a bunch of birds. And listen, we all love those days. I love those days as much as the next guy. But they're not... If the audience knows going into watching a episode of TV that it's going to be a banger every time, why are you watching? What's the... You want to see them have to figure it out and not know exactly how the hunt's going to pan out. And that was really what I wanted to do with Duck Lore, was just, here's what duck hunting is in its entirety. The raw, real thing. From boats breaking down to getting skunked to knocking on doors. That's that challenge of dealing with that crazy stuff is what a lot of us love about it.
Yeah, it's the entire process from start to finish, and the people you get to be with, and it's not necessarily the focus on the birds, but yeah, it makes the days a little bit better sometimes when everything comes together. But yeah, when you have those bad days, it makes you appreciate the better days. And you I had that hit me this last season of hunting, where it's like just how many variables go into like just a good hunt. It's kind of crazy how all those have to come together.
Oh yeah, you get that perfect sunny, windy day, and what you do for that day. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
But that day happens
Yep.
once every month, once every 3 weeks, where you get that perfect feed or bird flight, or they're active. It's not a full moon. You got the right wind, the right hide, the right sun. I mean, being able to capture
decoys
that.
calling, just everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and then trying to making quality videos on top of that, and for people to watch and be able to relate to. That's the biggest thing when I'm making my content for the campus waterfowl stuff, is like people can relate to, like they can visualize themselves being there, or even just like even all the elements of the reeds, the water, or whatever's going on. Just envision themselves there in that same position. So
And having fun with their buddies, right? It not
That's
being
right.
like
That's
always
the most
about
important.
just right, not just always being about like being some hardcore killer, but just about having fun,
Mm-hmm. So now with Duck Lore Season 2, how are your guys' videos structured? So were these videos were taken from last hunting season, correct?
Yep, fall of 21. Yeah.
And fall of 21. Was this first season fall of 21 as well? And did you have a shorter window to edit those? Okay. And then, so I think it was there 6 episodes of season 1?
Yeah, there's 6 episodes.
6. And then for season
And
2,
there'll be
is it
another
going to be the
6.
same, or another 6? Dang it. I was really hoping for a few more.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you know this, but 12 episodes of content takes a lot of work,
oh yeah.
Especially with Duck Lore, we're lucky to have enough days. We can go put in 4 days into a location. But you do that 12 times, and all of a sudden you're 48 days deep, not counting travel. So it adds up.
Do you know now? So will you guys then produce a third or season 3, and again kind of release those in the late or the early spring? Then do you know yet? Can you give us any information?
We'll be filming this fall. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
All right,
I don't know
perfect.
any
That's all
more
we need
than
to
that. But yeah. But as far as what comes out, this summer.
What day does the season 2 come out?
Yeah. So season 2 will come out July 19th. So we're close, man.
Sweet.
And yeah, July 19th is the release date for Duck Lore Season 2. And it's, Season 1 kind of ended with, frankly, some real rough hunts. I got COVID. November was so miserably warm and poor hunting all across a lot of the country. I thought I forgot how to kill a duck, frankly. And Season 2 starts off with, a cold front just smashing the Rockies. And, not to give away all of it, but the hunting turns back on. Thank goodness.
Turns back on. Sweet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's good to hear. And then what are some of the locations you guys are hunting in season 2 here?
Yeah, we hit Salt Lake, Missouri, Wyoming, Arkansas, New Mexico, and South Dakota. So
New Mexico, that one's going to be an interesting one. I haven't seen too many videos from hunting in New Mexico.
I don't know many people that have hunted New Mexico. I can count on one hand the number of people I know that have hunted New Mexico, and they are all people I've learned about since hunting it, not before. I went into it completely blind, having no clue what I was doing there. Pretty much going off of an Onyx pin. I was scrounging around on Onyx and thought this spot looked like it'd have birds, and I'd read some different not content, but articles out of Leopold talking about it in his books. I just kind of read about New Mexico waterfowling over the years, but never met anyone that did it. And then when Max and I were filming a bunch of predator content down there, we drive by these rivers and lakes, and I'm like, golly, man, they actually look like places that be good to duck hunt.
And was that pretty late season then? When you guys were down in New Mexico then? Were you guys going after cinnamon teal?
It was January. The cinnamons were gone.
They were already gone.
Yeah, it was mostly like what was around was green-winged teal, pintails, widgeon, mostly widgeon around.
Cool. Well, sweet. Well, I'll definitely be watching that one, and then for sure all the other ones as well to kind of see how you guys do. How do you guys even go about kind of picking where you're hunting, and then even going about, because are these mostly freelance hunt? Or are you guys meeting people there on site to kind of help you out, or how does this all come together?
Some of them are meeting up with people locally. For example, we go to Salt Lake and hunt with my buddy Glade Harris. Glade is a mechanic and like a boat builder, and overall, he has the gear and the capability to tackle a place like the Salt Lake. You can't just go, like, it's not like I'm just going to go buy an airboat tomorrow and decide I'm going to hunt the Salt Lake. So,
yeah.
On that hunt, we're meeting up with someone locally. New Mexico, South Dakota, Missouri. Those hunts are like completely freelance. I kind of have I won't give it away too much, but I do kind of have an idea of like what I look for on Onyx when I'm picking a new place. Kind of a correlation of water, food, flyway. And, I'll just sit and scroll on Onyx for hours until I find like kind of what looks like a bubble of habitat, and wing it, dude. Just wing it. And I
just go down there and see it for yourself.
Yeah, and to me that's something I guess I would like to see more waterfowlers enjoy. And I get it. Everyone has limited amount of time to go hunt and a limited amount of resources to do so, but I would love to see kind of our expectations of hunts come back to like being real happy about a limit of widgeon or, a few nice mallards. But like this idea that everything always has to be a big pile of lessers or a big pile of greenheads. I don't know how we got there. Like why is it bad to shoot a bunch of green-winged teal? Why is it bad to shoot a nice mix of shovelers and gadwalls and pintails? Like, to me, that's wonderful. That's a fun day.
No, there's nothing wrong with that in my mind. No. I always like little puffballs of green wings. Like I'd take a day of shooting those things. That'd be a ton of fun. So it brings me back to when I was in Nebraska when we were trying to get a green wing all day, but we just kept getting blues during teal season. But let's talk about going. So that's how the duck lure kind of came about, and then the planning. So what's been some of the biggest challenges when you do come on site to film?
Well, for sure the hardest part is that we're kind of, not to get into too much of how honestly, the biggest problem and the hardest part is that we can't just show up somewhere on any given day when the migration's just right. We kind of have, with how much filming we're doing, how many different guests we have, and like aligning of everybody's schedules and time away from families and work and stuff like that. You have this time period and you're going to this location, and sometimes the birds aren't going to be there. That was what absolutely screwed us on the Kansas episode from season 1 is I got COVID and it was 76 degrees out in early December. Well, what are you doing hunting waterfowl in Kansas during that? But ultimately, like, the dates were set. Camera guy's going to be there, guest's going to be there. So you just kind of got to do it. And that makes for a real challenge. But also, I guess like the comparison for me there is that's anyone that takes vacation off of work to go hunt, man. They've got a week of vacation. They're going regardless, even if they hit the migration wrong. It would be nice to not. It would be nice to not try to hunt when it's 76 in central Kansas, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that makes it tough.
Makes it
tough. But hey, yeah, those dates are set, and you're going to be going regardless. There's no. Why would you want to just stay around at home and kind of just twiddle your thumbs?
Yeah.
And you never know. There could be a last second system that pushes through that. I've seen that happen where it'll just come out of nowhere sometimes, and it turns out to be a great week.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with us in Missouri. Is right as we were getting there, a massive system came and rolled across the Midwest, like through Colorado, Kansas, and the day we got there, it was like snowing like crazy and cold, and I'm like, we just got lucky, right? Like we hit this perfect, and then the next 3 days after that, it kind of warms up and gets sunny and is windy. You get that south high moving back in, and that's perfect mallard killing conditions. And we were that was a case of like scheduling being great. If we tried to time that, we couldn't have timed it any better.
No. Just all those variables just come together. You just never, and then sometimes they just line out of the blue. So, what about? Let me see. What's kind of surprised you the most about the duck lore series? One thing that going in you did not expect at all.
Well, I didn't really ever picture myself being somebody on camera, and to me, I guess to me, it's still I'm just out doing what I like to do, which is duck hunt. But kind of learning that side of the whole, like trying to still just be me, just be Sean when a camera is rolling in my face is new and different for sure. I'll say probably one of the hardest things about, filming the whole thing has been not everyone's quite as obsessed as me. And sometimes you gotta dial it back and realize, like, okay, not everybody wants to go hard from 3:30 a.m. till 8 p.m. and then go home and eat at 9:30 and then clean birds and then get 3 hours of sleep. Like, that's pretty hard on a crew of people. And but I mean, that's how waterfowlers do it, right? A crazy bunch of people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's you can put that in your resume. Just put waterfowl hunter, and it'll come up on the resume, and then you'll just have to explain to them, like, this is why I put this here, and why you should consider me as a candidate.
Yeah, what that translates to is I work really hard, but I'll also be taking some vacation time.
That's right. I may not be in the office Thursdays, Fridays. I may be out. So that's funny. What about, so now kind of watching duck lore and everything. Yeah, you guys are wearing the First Lite gear. And so I wanted to talk to you, and I think, is there new gear coming out, or has that gear been released yet even? I can't even remember.
The gear is not for sale right now.
Okay.
By the time this releases, it probably will be.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yep.
The First Lite gear will be launching in July as well.
And this is specifically the waterfowl stuff.
Yep, the waterfowl stuff.
Okay.
And this is kind of, this is First Lite having really taken their. They have a lot of waterfowl hunters that work there, and they wanted to get into it right. They wanted to do it right. They didn't want to just turn a bunch of big game Western wear into a waterfowl line. They wanted to really be calculated in knowing exactly what the waterfowler needs. And it's, I got to test all of it all season last year and even a little bit before season last year, and planning next season's products. I've already been prototyping and wearing those and testing those, and man, they got it. They got it right. Like they developed their own 4.5 layer waterproof. I would call it like absolute bomb proof. It's their take on what every waterfowler wants, which is a water shedding piece of gear that is also durable. And I think that's been a knock for a long time on a lot of just in general more big game Western wear, is it's meant to be put on in case of rain, but then stowed away in a backpack. But waterfowlers don't necessarily need that packability. They need it to be durable as heck, and go throw it over top of pelican cases as camo, or go throw it over top of some spinners you just yank down, or throw it in the bottom of the boat and let it get muddy as hell. And that that was what they saw they needed to do, and they did it. It's great.
What about comfortability of it? You said that it's durable as all hell and everything, but how comfortable is it? Is it is it a slim type of wear, fitting to most waterfowlers' shape and everything, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just kind of depends on the piece. It all wears together really nicely. First Lite has always been kind of known for their base layers and their merino wool products, and so they're like really great insulating pieces transfer over in the waterfowl line. But then on top of that, you have this new kind of outerwear stuff. And for example, one of the pieces is the landing zone jacket, which is just a waterproof shell, uninsulated. And that jacket I wear over top of I wear that over top of a hoodie and a vest with a next to skin merino base layer, and it fits great. I wear that a lot. The product I'm probably most pumped about, though, out of the lineup is the Refuge bibs, which are an insulated bib that have a magnetic seal that goes over the zipper, so you don't get them so freaking full of mud. And those bibs are just late season. I'm used to being cold late season. And I think it was always because I wore uninsulated bibs, because now I'm wearing insulated and they're like heavy duty.
That could be it.
For so long, dude. I was so stubborn about just always wearing like the same uninsulated bibs from early season geese all the way through snow goose season. And I never wanted to pay for the insulated bibs, but my God, when you're sitting there in December, January, you're like, okay, I should have done this a long time ago.
Yeah. Cool. No, I was gonna ask you that. Yeah, what was your favorite piece the entire time? But yeah, you said those bibs.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I don't use them as much, right? They're a specific kind of use case. As far as overall,
what about the most versatile?
I would say the most versatile piece has got to be that landing zone jacket, just because it's, you can wear it as a rain piece in September, or you can wear it as a windbreaker in January, so.
Is that jacket then kind of like the 2-layer things where you can kind of zip away a piece of it, or the insulated portion, or is it just one full jacket?
It's just one full jacket. There's no insulating piece on it.
Gotcha. Nice. Well, no. And then how many, what about patterns and stuff? Like, what kind of pattern, like camo, do you guys have on it?
So the new First Lite pattern is called Typha, and it's a marsh pattern. And
Okay.
I will say, when I first saw it, year and a half ago, I was like, oh, that looks a little light to me. But now, like, once I got out hunting in it and saw it in a marsh environment, corn environment, I love that it's light, because I think a lot of times with camo patterns, you just end up being a dark blob in a sea of light browns and tans. And it's actually a pattern where I think it matches. Like, I really do, especially corn and cattails. It is like spot on.
And then any other camos or patterns that they have, or do they got flat colors too in those?
There will be some stuff available in flat colors, but solids. But most of the stuff is all just going to be in that type of camo.
Okay, sweet. I know I was in University of Wisconsin Platteville this last season, and all the students there were wearing First Lite. I don't know if anyone listening remembers, but it was the student that he was wearing head to toe in First Lite, and then he was too cheap to buy a PVC goose call, or he was too cheap to buy a goose call, and so he made himself a PVC goose call, which impressively, it freaking worked. It worked, and it sounded a lot better than you would think it would. So
that's
pretty funny
really
how he came
cool.
about that.
I would like to see him make one of those.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's not like, it's super easy to make too, and I think he's just using the guts from you could probably take guts from any goose call really, but I think he was using it from a zinc call, I think. So, yeah, that one.
That's cool.
People couldn't believe it. In all these years, I was like, finally, someone just has a simple PVC goose call. Worked great. So shout out to Ryan there in the Landshake gang up there.
What are your plans for the season, brother?
This hunting season, another 12 colleges, another 12 trips. So last year we made it to 12, and so this year I'll make it to another 12. Scheduling for sure college I'm going to is North Carolina State, just because they won our collegiate waterfowl national championship, a big tournament that we do in March, and so they locked in a spot. But from there, I have some ideas of what states I want to hit, and then I'll kind of narrow it down to the college. But it all kind of depends on the season, the birds, and sometimes I don't even know where I'm going until day of or a couple days before. So
nice.
It'll be another busy year, but
yeah,
I love it. So it's right now during the off season and stuff. It's kind of just waiting for that time to get here, and it's kind of a little slower now, but I'm super excited for the chaos to start again. So
yeah, I'm a little overdone on like warm and green. Don't get me wrong, I love that it's nice and green again, and we actually got a bunch of rain, and the ducks are going to be loving it and happy about it. But I'm I was just thinking about this. We're only a month and change away from like resident goose season's opening up, which feels like it's that fast.
Yeah, it'll be here tomorrow, pretty much, is how it's gonna feel.
Yeah.
But no, I'm pumped. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm sure you got plans already, but if you ever want to get on a hunt and live the crazy run and gun college life and highlight one of those hunts, you let me know, because it's pretty chaotic.
Oh yeah,
the college waterfowl lifestyle.
That sounds like a lot of fun, man. I mean, that was us, right? I mean, no, I guess it's not me anymore, but I cherish those days a lot of where I had $37 to my name, but was having a lot of fun chasing ducks.
You have the minimum of resources, and you're taking what you can get, and and the best part is that you're having a good time doing it too. And then and then kind of right now you look back at it and it's like, man, those were the best. So But no, yep, that's kind of what we get to do throughout the entire hunting season. So very grateful
That's awesome.
to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's great.
But what else should we cover? Favorite piece, got that. Got the upcoming season. Let's kind of finish out. We got one thing I want to ask you quick is your quick and dirty way to cook a duck. What's an easy way if you were to go back in college and be making a duck? How would you prepare it?
That's a great question, because I think that something I learned about duck over time that I wish I would have done in college is spatchcocking a duck, which is you got to have time, right? You got to pluck a whole duck, which a lot of times college kids don't have the time. They're driving straight from the field to their to their class, but walking into class shedding their waders. But if you have the time, make a couple Bloody Marys and sit down and pluck your ducks and do a spatchcock duck, which is pretty much, so yeah, you go through, you pull all the feathers off, and then you, what I do is I just snip out the spine with like shears, and then you fold the duck flat, completely as flat, pancake flat as you can get it. Put a little bit of like grapeseed oil or some kind of high smoke point oil on the skin, salt and pepper it, and put that cold, not on a hot pan, but a cold pan, cast iron, skin down, crank that heat, and as that pan warms up and gets hot, it'll make that skin real crispy. And then take it off, finish it in the oven for 6-7 minutes at 425 degrees. And man, that is high-end eating, and the only thing it cost you was the gas to get the duck and $8 bottle of oil that you'll use all hunting season. It's so tasty, it's so simple, and it's cheap. Well, not with $5 gas,
recipe.
But
yeah, no, but
we did.
It doesn't matter what gas will be; they'll still be going out hunting this fall.
Exactly. We did a lot of duck fajitas back in the day, which, I've gotten a little more, I guess, fine-tuned with the recipe. But back then it was, a couple taco packets and stripped up duck breasts and.
Well, your recipe might be a great date night thing, where if the guys maybe have a date with their girlfriends or want to impress someone, hey, it's a good option. All it cost was your $8 or your oil that you had to buy. You got the duck. So.
Yeah, exactly. You throw that spatchcock duck with a Caesar salad and then maybe some cast iron potatoes where you pour the duck fat that's rendered out on the potatoes. So you've done duck fat potatoes with a Caesar salad and a spatchcock duck. You're gonna impress some girls if they think duck hunting's cool. If they think it's bad, you shouldn't be going on a date with them anyway.
Yeah, set those expectations early.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But
we're gonna be eating this a long time, honey.
Yeah. And this is okay, but then the bad thing is that you're playing all your cards right on that first date, so now you don't have any other better recipes to top that come later.
That's where you start mixing in all the French sauces, a red wine sauce as you get older. Or
there you go.
Hank Shaw has a great duck l'orange recipe. Just mix in a few of those things as time goes on.
There we go. This is a perfect series to start. It's just date night duck.
Date night duck, yeah. Okay, I'm down.
Well, and then let's finish it off. Any advice that you might have for students out there? I'd like to finish off with this.
Do whatever you can to take care of those landowner relationships you build. That was something I was happy I did. Stop by, drop off a case of beer after season, drink beer with your farmer and BS, help them with fence, whatever you got to do. Just Like, don't be the guy that realizes when you're at a college for only 4 years that you can kind of show up, treat the area poorly, and then leave. You know, I've seen a little bit too much of that, and ultimately, the reason we all have such a hard time getting on private ground more and more every year is that there's relationships that have been burned. And sometimes there's this element of like landowners and sportsmen being at odds with each other, and it should not be that way. There's no reason for that. Go put up a hen house or two in the summer on a local pond you hunt. Help them wean cows. I mean, whatever it is, right? Like, cherish those farmers that let you hunt. Don't view it as just like, sweet, they let us hunt, but, you know, take care of their land and treat it as your own, because I think that's why we kind of have this element of people getting more and more, feel like there's more and more pressure on birds, is because there's less and less places to hunt. That'd be my, and work your butt off.
In college and out of college, would you say?
Yeah, just work hard at whatever you're doing. Playing hard.
Just work hard.
You know, just be willing to do the work. It's worth it. Feel good.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it on this episode of the podcast. Sean, where can everyone find you, and then give us the kind of the schedule for Duck Lore Season 2 and where they can find it?
You bet. Duck Lore Season 2 available on the MeatEater YouTube channel July 19th. First Lite Waterfowl gear comes out same time. Go check that out. You'll see it wrapped in all the Duck Lore stuff. And if you want to see random pictures of cooked duck and decoy spreads, give me a look on Instagram, Sean Weaver DWC.
Awesome. Well, Sean, thank you very much for jumping on our podcast. It was a pleasure talking with you again and catching up. Let's not make it another 2 years before we talk again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Agreed. Thanks for having me, dude.
All right, well, take it easy and good luck this season.